Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about how to create a custom Skydome. The sky sphere that is in there works very well for daytime, and you can do nighttime, and you can do all that kind of stuff. There may be times when you need something a little bit more dramatic, and you'd like to have some control over it, or you like to create your own skies. I have an example of one right here that I've created that's this dark, forbidding evening sky, maybe a storm because I'm doing rain and things like that. And I'd like to have that kind of a look. Or maybe I want something a little bit different. Maybe I'm just looking for a little bit more realistic sky going on out there. Now, this isn't going to be animated. It's a static sky. It just sits there. But it might be kind of what you want to do. So I'm going to show you how I go into Photoshop and how I set these things up and then bring it back in. Now, just so you know, I have in here, and I provided for you guys out there something that is a Skydome. And this one already has a texture on it. It's got that nighttime texture on it. This was something that I created in a 3D program. It's a little bit of a tricky thing to create in a 3D program. If you actually want to create one of these things on your own, if you have access to Blender or Maya or Max or something like that, what I did was I created a sphere and then I deleted the bottom half of it. And then what I did was, it can be whatever size you want. It doesn't really matter. You want it to be kind of large. But you don't have to put a lot of resolution into it. There's not a lot of polys on this one because it's going to be way up above everything anyway. Go underneath so you can look at it and see. It's hard to see. You can't really see it from the top. But so I sphere, cut it in half. I applied the material to the inside of the dome. So what I did was I selected the dome and then flipped it inside out. So it's invisible from the top, but it's visible from underneath because that's what you're looking at when you've created a Skydome. I applied a material to it. And I'm going to show you how to make that material. And then what I did was, the trick on this one is not to leave it in the shape that it's in. You notice if I created this thing in a sphere, and deleted the bottom half, this doesn't look like a sphere. It looks like it's been squashed down. And that's exactly what you do. You scale it down so it's more of a upside down bowl, not a perfect half hemisphere. It's been flattened out a little bit. So this is a little bit closer to the ground level than this corner is to the middle of the ground, if you understand what I'm saying. If this was a perfect half sphere, it would be the same distance from up here down to there and up here down to there. But I want the sky to be a little bit closer to me, so I collapse that down, just scale it down maybe to about 35 or 40% of its original height. And then I exported it out and I brought it in and then prepared the texture, which is the next thing I'm going to show you how to do. The texture is a little tricky. It requires a little bit of Photoshop skill. But I think if you see somebody do it, then you should be able to figure that out on your own. Now, what I did was I Googled looking for panoramas, nighttime panoramas. I'm trying to find images. They need to be a perfect 360-degree panorama. Those are hard to find. Now, you can find Skydome images if you just Google Skydome image. Skydome being all one word. You should be able to find ones that you can just take and use. But again, I'm just trying to teach you something a little above and beyond that. I'm going to teach you how to make one of these things on your own. So this is a Skydome or a sky panorama that I found. It's not a perfect 360-degree panorama. Like I said, those are hard to come by, and they tend to be immense. Like, this is, I think this is 1066 by 38 something, 100 pixels. Sometimes they can be 5, 6, 7, 9,000 pixels wide and maybe 3,000 or 4,000 pixels high because they're high resolution images done with a 360-degree camera. The important part of it being 360 degrees is we need to make sure that this image is seamless. And I'm going to do it in such a way to begin with to show you what happens if it's not seamless. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to make it appear seamless so we can get a little bit better idea of what it is you need to do. So there's this image that I found. It's kind of an interesting sky. That looks like I can probably work with it. I'm going to touch it up a little bit and get it ready to go. But like I said, this image is fairly large. And it's not a perfect 360. So here's the first thing, the first step that you're going to do when you do this. You need to get it ready to be turned into a power of 2. So the images have to be 1024 or 2048 or 4096, and because this is going to be a really huge image and it's going to be partially obscured by fog or rain or things like that, I'm going to set this thing so it's a 1024 by 1024 image. Right now it is here. If I go back and look, the image size is this is 1066 by 3931. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this. So it's 1024 by 3091. In fact, let me get out of that and do it again. What I'm going to do here is I need to go in to the image size. I need to make sure that it's constrained. Okay, so I'm going to make this one 1024. It's also going to reduce the size of that a little bit. That's fine. I don't really want to elongate this picture. And that's going to shrink it just a little bit, but it's 1024 high. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go in and you're then going to go back to that same image size. You're going to uncheck these two things that constrain the proportions. And what you're going to do is you're going to make this thing 1024 by 1024. And it's going to squish it up to look something like this. All right. Now, a Skydome, it has to be an image that I can project onto a dome, and this is not really going to be projected very well onto a dome. So what we have to do is we have to take this one step further with one of the filters that we have in here. Now, as a reminder, I'm going to show you this is not a tiled image, or it's not seamless. So we are going to get a difference, and you're going to see the problem that happens. You're also going to see a notorious issue when we're doing something like this because of the way that this image is done. And I'll talk about that in a second. Then we're going to go to Filter. We're going to go to Distort, and you're going to look for one called Polar Coordinates. Now, I can't say whether or not this filter exists in Pixlr, which is the Autodesk free internet-based Photoshop type editor. I don't know if it's in there or not. I know it's in Photoshop, so that's kind of why I'm showing it to you. I'm going to sneeze there. But we're going to go to Polar Coordinates, and we're going to select that. Now, this little window is going to pop up. And you have two choices. It's rectangular to polar, or it's polar to rectangular. And if I zoom out on this, what you're going to see is this. What it's doing is it's taking that image and it's wrapping it around the inside of a dome. Okay, I'm starting with a square and I'm converting it to polar. If I wanted to, and well, I'll show that to you in a second, but that's kind of what I want, rectangular to polar, and I'm going to click OK, and it's going to do this to it. All right, now what you'll see is there's the horizon line out around the outer edge, and it kind of smears some things like that over here. It's like that. There's like some sort of an object that was down there. It's just smearing it out because it's not really part of that picture anymore. But basically what it's done is it's flipped this thing around the inside. Now, two of the problems that we see, one would be the fact that since this isn't seamless, I don't really have a seamless edge up and through here. Now, this isn't so bad. I can probably touch that up right in through here, and I can make that so it's a seamless image. The other thing that is a notorious problem with doing this one is the so-called pucker. You're going to get this little belly button pucker here at the top. One of the things we always look for, let me put this back the way it was here for just a second. One of the things that we always look for when we're doing these kinds of things is you're looking for a continuous tone up along the top of that picture. And you can see I got dark clouds and I got light clouds. And so I'm not really getting a continuous tone. What we're doing is we're taking this top edge up here, and the first thing that we do is we then shrink it up so it's condensed. So now I've got this edge up here, and then I'm going to take it and I'm going to wrap that edge 360 degrees around. And what I'm going to get is I'm going to get, if I look at that thing in here, basically you can see the line, and it just takes it and spins it around like this, and you end up with pixels that are in essence smeared around. And so you get this weird kind of this pixely looking thing in through here. Now that's not, you know, again, this is not a bad one. I probably would be able to go in and fix that. But ideally what you would do is before you even get to that point, kind of what I like to do is I like to go in and give my image a continuous tone along the top. So to do that, what I would do is I would going to go in here and I'm going to set my colors Probably I'm going to set this thing to a dark gray. In fact, I think what I'll do is I'm going to get a color that comes out of that sky up there. So I'm going to get maybe that dark color right there, which is not really black, but it's pretty close to black. And then I'm going to draw a marquee up here. So I've got that area selected. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a gradient. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in my gradient, I'm going to go from that dark gray, I'm going to go to nothing. And so then what happens is if I come up here and I left click and I drag down, I put down that solid color up there. Now that is enough to avoid that pucker. Just a little bit like that. So if I look at that and say, all right, let's close that up. I've added a little bit of that gradient color up there. But the important thing is that's all one tone. That's the same color all the way along the top of that thing. So if I go back up into here and I'll go and I need to, first of all, let's shrink this thing up. So we'll go back to image size and we'll make this 1024 by 1024. That's the same color. Now if I go back into that filter and I go distort and polar coordinates and click OK, I have done away with that puckered effect right there in the middle of that thing. And I'm getting a little bit of it over here, but I can then, at that point, I can come back in here and say, let's get a rubber stamp tool and maybe pick up some of this area up and through here, and we'll kind of blend it in a little bit in through there to maybe kind of take that out. In fact, I like to, if I'm doing this, I make sure I'm not using 100% opaque, so I can pick up an area like that and lay down just a percentage of it. Otherwise, I'm replacing pixels. That's probably even a little bit much there. And I'm just putting a little bit of it down and kind of pick that thing up. And I'm going to do the same thing up here. I need to kind of eradicate that. I need to have a little bit of that. I'm going to select that. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to transform, and I'm going to flip that horizontal. And I'm going to pull that over so it's about there like that. And then I will take an eraser and I don't want that to be too hard edged, that kind of soft. I'm going to go and I'm going to kind of erase up around and through there just to try to see if I can't eliminate. And then I'll come back into here, I'll get my rubber stamp tool again, and we'll come and we'll pick up an area like that. And that's probably too much. Oh, put it on the layer there. That's why. And I'm just trying to eliminate that. I'm going to turn that off. I think maybe I can do it with this. Maybe I can't. No, I think I'm going to have to leave that turned on, get those things back out of there, turn that thing back on, and I think I'm going to leave it about like that. But I think that that's probably going to work. That's probably going to work pretty good. Basically what I'm looking for is my horizon goes all the way around it like that. If it's a little bit off, that's okay. It just has to meet right there in the middle, right where you see that line up there that's showing up from the little magic wand selection there. As long as you can see what it was originally and now kind of what it looks like. And I'll take that and let's go ahead and flatten this out. All right, and then I'm just going to save this. So we'll go File, we'll do a Save As, and I'll call this one, put it on my desktop here, and we'll just call this one Skydome. Save that up, and that's ready to go. Okay. Then what I do is I come back into here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to import that image. And we'll hunt for that. It's on my desktop. Skydome comes in. There it is. and I'll open it up and I'll take a look at it. And that looks pretty good. I got this nice dark cloud up there. That's going to work pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we make the material. And this is the old one that I had over here. So let's go back up and find my Skydome material and open it up. This is about as easy as it gets. Okay. It is a translucent material. It's set to default lit. Okay. If you would like to, you can go ahead and set that to be unlit, and you'll get a little bit, maybe a little bit better results there. And then you have your texture sample that's wired into the emissive. So if I come back over here, I want to pull that out of the way for a second. Let me go back and get that new Skydome texture, and I'm going to bring it over and drag it in. So I've got it here. And then basically what I can do is I can take that one and plug that one in. And I now have a different Skydome. And I'll save that up. And that's my new Skydome up there. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. I kind of like that a lot. All right. Now, what is it that I did? Well, I also have that dome. Like I said, I showed you the dome, and I'm able to take that material and stick it on there and do that. Now, what I did was when I created that dome, let me select it up there, and I'll go to my top view. What I did was I imported that dome and blew it up to be immense. Now, I don't think that's quite as big as the original Skydome. I think the original Skydome goes clear to the outer edge of this graph that you see right there. Mine is considerably smaller than that. If I look at this thing from the side, it's still immense. That's still pretty big, considering there's my little world in there. That sky is up there quite a bit. But what's nice about it is, depending upon how much horizon you have, sometimes you can make that horizon visible. Sometimes you can leave it so it's hidden. I can take that dome, and if I wanted to, like I can see there's actually mountains going all the way up around over there. Those look a little bit, that's a little bit, maybe a little bit big. So I can click on that Skydome, and what I can do is I can go back and pull that thing down. I'll probably do it over here so I can do it. The location is at -500, -500, and -700. Let's go ahead and take this and lower that down to maybe -1200. And you didn't really notice much there. Ooh. So I think what I'll do is I'll go in and go to the left, and we'll take that and we'll pull that thing down maybe about like that. And now I'm not seeing those mountains around there at all. If I wanted to see them a little bit, I might go back and let's raise that thing up. Maybe see them a little bit. Or at least the higher points. Not quite. So that's -30,000. So let's do -20,000. Still not seeing them. So you kind of get the point of what's going on here. 10. Maybe at some point I'll be able to see just a little bit of that. There, I can see them up there now. They were down below the fog. That's why they were doing that. So why you couldn't see them at all. They're actually there a little bit. But if I go in and play this one, I have to redo my lighting. But I do have a really nice sky setup. I'm still getting some lightning, and probably in something like this I would probably want to set the lightning up so it's over on that side of my world, because that's really where the clouds are. I've got a little bit of blue sky over there, so I'm probably not going to see too much lightning over in those areas, but I am going to see it back over here, so I would move those a little bit to change that. But I've got a really nice dome in here, and it works really easy. The hardest part, like I said, the hardest part is going to be doing the research to try to find panoramic images, or to go ahead and just use some of the existing ones. I have to say the existing Skydomes I have seen all tend to be blue skies. So if you're looking for a particular night scene, you might not be happy with what you're looking at. In fact, here's some examples of some ones that I've got. Let's make those a little bit bigger. And these are all, like there's a dawn. They're all relatively dark. Their idea of overcast actually looks more like, you know, Mars at night or something like that. They've got snow clouds, light and dark, and it's okay, but it doesn't really give you the same. I don't feel gives you the same effect of you being able to go out and find your own and then create your own. And in fact, you know, I started with a photograph. If you wanted to create your own, you can actually go so far as to you can get, if you're really into Photoshop, and I would really recommend that you get involved with Photoshop, get your hands on it and take a class in it, or, you know, sign up for a class from me or something like that that teaches you Photoshop, because, you know, you can create just about anything you want. These were created from scratch. Now, what you can do is you can go into Photoshop and you can create a new document here, and I'll make that, let's just go 4096 by I'll do 1024 just so I've got something that looks like that. And there's no reason why you just can't go in here and say, look, let's go ahead and create a sky that gets lighter as it goes up, because that's what the sky actually gets darker as it goes up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get like a nice sky grayish kind of sky color to start with. And then I'm going to go ahead and get a second color here, and I'll get one that's a little bit more of a sky blue, maybe about like that. And then I'm going to do a gradient. Again, we're going to do the gradient. In this case, I'm going to go from one color to the other. And I can create, that's probably one a little more like that. I can do something like this. I can then go in and say, well, let's create a horizon. So I can just go in and create something kind of generic like this. And then I can fill that with black. And then what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to make sure that in this particular case, I have to make sure that the right corner of this matches the left corner, because I need to make sure that this thing is symmetrical. So I go in and select that bottom left-hand corner, and I'll zoom in on this here. And then I have to go up here and flip that over, because it needs to be flipped over the other way. So we'll transform that 180 degrees, and then we'll take that and we'll drop it right down on the ground. And you can see that this is the edge that matches the other side. So all I need to do is come back in here and take, starting from maybe that point, I didn't do a very good job of that, so let's try that again. Go maybe like this, and we'll fill that with black. And even if there's like a little tick there, that's going to be okay. And I have something that now matches side to side. And then you can get brushes. If you're really into brushes, you can go and search for brushes that are actual clouds. I think I have them in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to search for clouds. And I do cloud set 1. These might not be what I want. Oof. Yeah, that's might want different brushes than those. They're a little bit big, but I'm not worried. That'll do. And then I can go in here and say, let's take that down maybe. Whoa. Make that bigger. What's going on? Oh. Okay, that's that. Then I'm just going to go ahead and make that bigger like that and put that cloud in here, and then maybe go back and get a different one. I don't know what that's going to do. Again, I can't take that off the edge, so I think what I'm going to have to do is make that that would probably work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that. Oops. That's not what I want to do. select this, and oh, I see, I put that on that layer. All right, so and then I'll click on that right there. No, it's not gonna do it. But anyway, I can put the clouds down and create my own sky, and then do the exact same thing. I can take this, I would take these things over here, right click, I would go ahead and say flatten that image, and go up to my filter, or I'm sorry, go up to scale, image, canvas size, we'll make that 1024 by 1024, and then we would go to filter, distort, polar coordinates, click OK, and then I have that scene set up like that. And what I can do is, if I ever decide I need to go back and fix that, because I'm not getting that pucker at the top, and it's seamless because it matches up all the way around. If I ever decide to take it back to its original shape to fix it, all I have to do is do the reverse on the filter. Go to distort, go to polar coordinates, and select polar to rectangular, and it unfolds it back out like that. And I can go back in, I can put more stuff in there, I can do all kinds of stuff. And you can create your own skies. You can do night skies, day skies, cloudy skies. You can make these things and to suit any particular scene that you need. Alien skies, whatever it is you want. They're fairly easy to set up and do. So I would encourage you to do that. There's a tutorial out there on how to do these. I'm not going to save that. I don't need to worry about that. I've got a tutorial out there on how to do those and build them yourself. And if you follow those instructions, you should be able to then create your own custom skies, and you'll have these scenes set up to be exactly what you want.